I propose to start. I would like to welcome to everybody and to thank you to be present on this first part of training on SaphyGATE G50. I am Eric Dolé. I am the manager of the product of the product department of Vertin, and especially the part in charge of nuclear and health physics devices. You will have different teachers during these 2 days, especially Frédéric Alves, who will manage this training, and Alain Ferragut will be there next day, tomorrow. Yeah, I wanted just to introduce the training. So this training was decided more than 1 year ago, during Saphy Days, in fact, and due to the COVID situation and at first due to the difficulties to organize this training, so it was finally we decided to make this as webinar. So it is the first time we are doing this kind of training in this way, and I hope it will be helpful for all of yours. The aim of this training is to help you day by day to better define the needs for before installation, to be able to install it in a good condition and to commission it inside, and then after to make the maintenance for your customer. So we will have 2 half a day for this training. 2 half a day. You will be. It will be possible for all of you to ask question by mail or by written, and then we'll try to answer at the end of each part on the question you will have, and maybe after to send you the answer by email after if we don't have enough time to answer. So I will let Frédéric continue. Just for you will have your microphone mute during this training, and Frédéric will speak, and after we will answer by written to the question. So one more time, thanks to all of yours, and good training to everybody.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Thank you very much for this presentation. So I'm Frédéric Alves, and I will be the main speaker during this SaphyGATE training. Welcome to everybody. Thank you to all to be present to this webinar and to this training concerning the installation, on-site commissioning and maintenance. As Eric said, your microphones are mute because in order to make it easier and to not have too much sounds during the presentation, is better to do like that. And if you want to ask a question, if you have a remark, if you have some difficulties to listen to me, or if there is any problem, you can of course ask your questions or put your remarks thanks to the chat of this platform. You can do some tests if you want. You can send maybe by now your name and the company on the question, just to be sure that everything is working on. So we will start this training by now. And so let's go. So the agenda of this training is presented as it is shown on this slide. So first the welcome and training reminders, then we will see generalities concerning the system, and we will of course see the all steps of the installation, and we will have a quick quiz in order to check the all information, if the all information shared are well integrated. Then we will have a little break, about 15 minutes break, and we will see on the second part the wiring. The second part today, of course, the wiring of the system and the steps for the commissioning, and then the wiring and the commissioning quiz, the same as for the installation, and finally we will have time for questions and answers. So, as said, the main speakers and the only two speakers during this 2 days training will be Alain SaphyGATE, who is the nuclear physics expert of Bertin, and myself. And I will speak during the whole day. I will be the only one who will speak today, and tomorrow Alain will speak with me on the second part of the presentation of this training. As a reminder, here you have your contacts for concerning the sales team. So you have Marie-Triou, who is the sales representative for Asia, Americas, Middle East, and Africa. And you have also Stefan Rumpel, who is the sales manager for Europe. So it will be your contact for the whole Europe. So now generalities concerning the SaphyGATE G. This is a reminder for some of you, or as an information for the others, generalities concerning the detectors. So on the SaphyGATE G, you have plastic scintillator detectors in polyvinyl toluene. The energy ranges is from 30 keV to 7 MeV, mega electron volts, and the working temperature for the electrical units is from minus 5 degrees to plus 45 degrees. And concerning the detectors, who are installed, of course, outside, the working temperatures are from minus 20 degrees to plus 50 degrees. The housing of these detectors is an hermetic aluminum box, and the protection grade is IP65. And as you know now, all of you, the system, the SaphyGATE G, is compliant with international standards, including IEC 62022. Also, as a reminder, here you have the standard system synoptic. So you have of course, the detectors, these two detectors. So you have a master detector and a slave detector. These two detectors are connected to an electrical box who is managing the all and brings, of course, the power supply for the detectors. It brings also the power supply to the PC. The PC which is connected to this electrical box, and you have on the detectors
and more precisely on the master detector, 2 infrared cells. We will see, of course, more in detail each one of this, more precisely each one of these all devices which compose the system. And you also have cable kit that you can take as an option, but pay attention if the customer provides the cables, be sure that these all cables are the good ones in order to not have any problems during the installation. So we will recommend you to buy as much as possible and as well as possible this cable kit, which is composed by the cables between the electrical box and the master detector. So you have an Ethernet cable, and you have the power supply cable, and you have also the cable from the 2 detectors, from the slave to the master detector. And of course, you also have the RG45 connectors in order to connect it on the mixing box, which is on the master detector, and also to connect it on the electrical box. Concerning the options, you have several ones. First one is called BVS 300, which is an alarm box, and more precisely an external alarm box you can install close to the system or where you want. You can connect it on the master detector or also on the electrical box sometimes. If it's easier on site, you can connect, of course, it on the electrical box. You have a second option, which is the camera. The camera also connected to the mixing box, which is on the master detector, and you also have traffic lights option. You can connect also on the mixing box, which is another time on the master detector. You have also the option, the counting wagons option, which is only used, of course, when you install a system which is controlling trains, for sure. And you have also an option to add a site supervision, which is a centralized supervision if you have several systems on a site, you can see on this centralized site supervision the all systems. Some characteristics concerning the detectors. On the left, on the picture of the left, you have the cable glands. So we will see more precisely just after. During the installation, you have to pay attention to this cable glands when you install the detectors on its support. Please take care about that. And on the picture of right, you have the all fixation points of the detectors to fix on their stand. Concerning the master detector is presented like that. The master detector is easily identified thanks to his 2 infrared cells. You have infrared cells on each side of this detector. And inside the detector, you have, of course, the scintillator and the photomultiplier. On the left side you have the spectral board, and on the right side you have the mixing card. Here a view of the slave detector. Now you know it perfectly. This detector is the same as a master detector, but on the master detector you have the infrared cells and the mixing card. Here you only have the scintillator, photomultiplier, and the spectral board. Concerning the infrared cells, you have here the type. This is EQ511 type. These infrared cells are without reflector. So this is a direct reflection. The reflector will be the car, the truck, or the person. This is a technology without reflector, and you have also some characteristics of this infrared cell. The maximum detection distance will be 2 meters and a half. The maximum voltage will be 24 volts for sure, and as it was said, the light source is infrared. IP rating, this is IP67. You have a response time of 2 milliseconds, and you have also the working temperatures, which are for the maximum plus 55 degrees, and for the minimum minus 20 degrees. And a reminder concerning the functions of these infrared cells. You have 3 functions to keep in mind. The first one, and the first one is to detect the vehicles in order to start the measuring. And the second one is an important also function, which is to calculate the vehicle speed. And the third one to determine crossing direction. So these are the 3 main functions. Concerning the electrical box, you have here a picture showing to you the all components which are inside the electrical box. The mains are the 3 that are shown. Of course, a power supply in order to provide the supply to the detectors and to the PC. You also have another module, and you have an Ethernet switch on the left side. On this electrical box, you have 3 indicator lights. The first one is the green light, and this light is showing to you that the system is working properly. So it concerns the proper functioning of the system. You have also a yellow light, which is indicated to you that there is a technical defect. So you can have a technical defect concerning the measurement. You can have also the information concerning a speed anomaly. So when we are speaking about speed anomaly, it seems that it means that the vehicle across the system with a speed higher than 10 kilometers per hour. This is also an important thing to keep in mind in order to make the system working properly. Finally, you have the third light, which is the red light, and it concerns nuclear alarms. When you have an alarm, of course, you will have this light which will switch on, and at the same time you will have the buzzer that will activate it. You have also on this electrical box a push button for the acknowledgement of the alarm. You also have an on-off switch button in order to switch on, of course, or switch off electronically the system. You have a 2 amperes fuse holder and the 24 volts power supply, as I said, the internet switch and ADAM module, as I said before.
Sorry for this, another time for this problem. Hope you are hearing me. If it's not the case, please let me know on the questions. It's okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I will continue concerning now the panel PC. The system has an embedded PC with Windows 7 embedded, and some of you asked the question during the year. Windows 10 is coming soon, so good news. We will install now panel PC systems with a panel PC which have Windows 10. This panel PC has also 4 USB ports and 2 Ethernet ports. We'll see later during this presentation how to connect the panel PC, of course, and how to connect the electrical box. You have a touch. This is a touch screen, but in fact you can use for sure a mouse computer and also a keyboard in order to make it easier. You have real-time supervision, of course, and on this panel PC you have the recording of the all passages, the all events, and the background history. Concerning the options, the external alarm box called BVS 300 is an alarm box supplied with 24 volts. As I said before, this is connected to the mixing cards, and this is an outdoor alarm report. Concerning the counting wagon, the wagon counting detection, you have the possibility to add a ultrasound counting detector, as presented here. This is supplied with 24 volts. This is also connected to the mixing cards, and it allows to count, of course, the number of wagons. The camera is also supplied with 24 volts. This is also, as the previous options, connected to mixing cards, and it allows to take pictures of vehicles. Of course, most of the time this is in order to have the number of the plates of the vehicles. And you have also the traffic lights option, the same as before. This is supplied with 24 volts. This is also connected to the mixing cards, and in this case the traffic light is most of the time used to allow to stop the vehicles in case of alarm. Concerning now the working principle, the detectors are continuously measuring the ambient radioactivity. This is called the background mode. This is a system which is based on digital multi-channel analyzer. We will see tomorrow with Alain on the second part of this training more precisely this principle. The detectors have also an embedded specific stabilization process continuously running during the background, and based on the nitrile potassium present in the background. That's why, for these reasons, that's why it's really important when you do some tests close to the system to not irradiate the system during its stabilization phase, or to not irradiate the system without masking the cells, for sure. So when vehicles pass between the detectors, the system, the SaphyGATE G switch to measurement mode, for sure. The speed is calculated, and the alarm threshold is dynamically calculated. You will have more precisions concerning this alarm threshold tomorrow with Alain SaphyGATE. If no radioactivity detection, the passage is recorded, and if the radioactivity detected, then of course, as I said, and as you know, the system switches to alarm. The alarm can be classified if you activate the alarm classification option, and the passage is recorded. As a reminder for all of you, each 100 milliseconds, the SaphyGATE G detectors acquire the counting on 1024 channel spectrum, as is shown on the graph. And on this spectrum, the counting is spread over 12 regions of interest. And all the time, you will see more precisions about that tomorrow, because Alain will present to you. Concerning the background modes, when the system starts to work, the infrared cells are non-activated, for sure, and the SaphyGATE G detectors acquire the background spectrum during 10 minutes. This acquisition allows the system to stabilize itself every 10 minutes. Very important to keep it in your minds. In background mode, the system automatically adjusts itself in gain and high voltage with, as I said before, potassium as a reference. And as I said another time, it should be avoided the presence of any source or maybe any vehicle or something that could disturb the stabilization of the system during this stabilization. Yeah. Now in measurement mode, when you are in measurement mode, when the infrared cells are activated, so the stabilization of SaphyGATE G is interrupted and the measurement begins. At this time, the algorithm allows to relieve, or let me say, reduce the vehicle's shielding effects. The algorithm of the SaphyGATE G allows also to detect the location of the source, and if the option is activated, it can also classify the nuclear alarms. Then, at the end of the measurement, the system switches back to the background mode, and the stabilization continues from where it stopped. So it means, for example, that if you have first 3 minutes in background mode and then 2 minutes of measurement, you will come back to the background mode again during 7 minutes in order to stabilization, in order to have the stabilization of the gain and high voltage. Okay. Now you have here some recommendations concerning the installation of the system. And let me say that this is a really important point to keep in mind, because sometimes we have problems after the installation of the system that we could avoid if some points had been checked better before. So these all points are to keep in mind. The first one is the maximum width between the two detectors. The maximum width is 4.5 meters. This distance is a recommendation in order to have good performances of the system. If you have, of course, it is possible to have with higher than 4.5 meters, but please know that the performances will decrease. So this is the really recommended maximum width between the detectors. You have also to keep at least 3 meters between the system and other devices. For example, as is put on the slide, the weight bridge or traffic lights, or also a gate. You have to be sure that the system will be at least 3 meters far away from these devices, because it can sometimes, if you have a traffic light or a way bridge, you will have a truck or vehicles in general that will stop during minutes. And if the vehicle stops during more than 10 minutes at a distance lower than 3 meters, it can result in sometimes nuclear anomalies, and it can disturb the working of the system. Yeah, that's why we recommend also at least 5 meters between the system and the parking area. Of course, if you have a parking area, you will have a lot of cars which were not present at the beginning of the day. And if these cars are arriving one by one and parked close to the system at a distance lower than 5 meters, it can in this case also disturb the system, and it can result also in some nuclear anomalies. So keep it in mind, and in order to not have problems like that. Also, no vehicles for the same reasons. No vehicles or maneuvering in a 3 meters area around the system. And important also to keep it in mind, no pedestrians crossing the system, because sometimes we can have measurement anomalies if the pedestrian across the system in let me say a strange way, because if the pedestrian is crossing the system close to the slave detector, maybe sometimes one of the two infrared cells can see the pedestrian and not the two, and the system considers that there is a problem if the two infrared cells are not activated. When you have a passage, the normal behavior for sure is to activate the first infrared cell and then the second one. So it is really important to avoid as much as possible, in order to not have problems, the fact that pedestrians crossing the system. And the last point on this slide, and another one very important, is the vehicle speed. We have to have, it is needed to have a speed lower than 10 kilometers per hour in order to have the best performances, for sure. If you have a speed that is higher than 10 kilometers per hour, it lets less time to the system to analyze and to control the vehicle, and it results in a decreasing of performances of the system, for sure. Next recommendations is concerning is concerning the maximum length of the cables, and it concerns more precisely the Ethernet cable. It is the maximum length recommended for this cable is 100 meters. If you have installation with detectors that are far away from the electrical box and the panel PC, you have to find another solution and not use the Ethernet cable. You can use some repeaters of the signal in order to make it possible, and that's it. Another point very important is the detection axis. The detection axis is the height from the road until the center of the scintillator, and this height is at maximum 2 meters. You have to keep this 2 meters, of course, for let me say standard trucks, standard vehicles. If you have small vehicles, for sure you have to. It is needed to have a detection axis lower than these 2 meters, but this 2 meters height of detection axis is a standard for the all trucks. Please take care also concerning the level of the roads. Both detectors have to be installed at the same level, at the same height. For sure, if you have one detector with a detection axis at 2 meters and the other one at 2.5 meters, it cannot working properly, for sure. You have to be sure that the two detectors are at the same level. And important also, install it on a flat surface. Now, just have a look concerning the performances of the system. If we consider two shielded DSP10 detectors, so the detectors that are on the SaphyGATE G, we consider it two detectors, a background around 3,500 Cooper seconds, and sensitivity with at 10.5, sorry, with a radio element of reference, which is the cesium. You have this minimum detectable activities presented here. So for sure you can see that more the vehicle will have a high speed, more you will have a minimum detectable activity which is high. So keep in mind, you can keep in mind that in these conditions at 10 kilometers per hour you will have a minimum detectable activity at 4.5 meters between the two detectors, which is 157 kilobecquerels. And here, just for information, you have the relation between speed vehicle in kilometers per hour, and you have the associated MDA, so minimum detectable activity, in kilobecquerels. So the same information as before. Now we'll have a look concerning the civil works. This is also really important. Civil works and wiring works are to be prepared as well as possible another time in order to not have too much problems then during the commissioning. So as a reminder, here you have the drawing of the concrete. So you have a deep of the concrete which is at 700 centimeters, and here you have, as a reminder, the other measures of the concrete. So take it, share it with your customer if your customer do the concretes, or be sure that the concretes have the good measures for sure. Concerning the wiring overview, now you know it well. You have 5 cables. The first one is the cable is the supply cable, the 230 volts cable. Power supply, sorry, cable to supply, of course, the electrical box. And oh, sorry, I just was checking. Sometimes I'm checking your remarks, and we had lost few of you, and now it seems that it's okay. So I can continue. Sorry for that. So I was telling that the cable 2 is the Ethernet cable between the panel PC and the electrical box, and the third one is the cable between the master detector and the electrical box. In fact, you have two cables between the electrical box and the master detector. You have cables 3 and 4. One which is the Ethernet cable for communication, and the other one which is an SMBL cable for the supply of the detector. And the last cable is the cable between detector 1 and detector 2, master and slave detectors. And this cable is for communication and also the supply. So as the reminder, the old reminders, as we have seen this all reminders, we will now have a look on the steps of the installation of a SaphyGATE G50 standard system. First, have a look on the necessary tools. So you have the all tools you need to install the system listed here. We will come back later to this necessary tools, but it was for you to just to have a look on the main necessary tools to install the system. First thing, and maybe before checking the area where you will install the systems, is to check and control the material. The first thing is to be sure that you have everything to install the system. So you normally will receive the material as shown here. So you will have a packaging with the first detector and the associated screws, sorry. Then you will have also a second packaging with the second detector, and another time the associated screws. You will have a third one with the stands, the two stands, the panel PC, the electrical box, and the screws. And the last packaging is the lid shieldings. So you have 20, 10 per detector. So be sure that you have the all necessary material to install before starting to install it. First thing you have to install for sure, and let me say, before installing the system, you have to verify, to check the all points we have seen before. You have to check if you have a flat road. You have to check if the detectors will be at the same level. You have to check also the concrete and the wiring, in order to be sure before installing the stand that everything is okay. This is the first point. So here you have a view of the necessary equipment for the installation of the stands. So you have eight spring washers, 8 anchor screws, 2 stands, 8 nuts, and 8 flat washers. And a reminder concerning the stand characteristics. Keep in mind that the material is galvanized steel. The weight of these stands is around 45 kilograms. The sole plate dimensions are the ones shown, and the same for the plat dimensions for the detector fixation. Sometimes this is information maybe your customers can ask to you, so keep it in mind, or be sure you have the old drawings where this information is. Concerning the steps of the installation of the stands, the first one for sure is to measure. You have to place on the best position you can the stands, and take the measures in order to put the mark of all points of fixation of a stand, which is a step 2. Since you have put the marks on the fixation points, you have to perforate it. So you have 4, as a reminder, 4 points of fixation of a stand. So since you have perforated, you have to place the anchor screws. So place the 4 ones, and then fix the anchor. And the last step is for sure to fix the nuts, to fix it, and be sure that the position of the stand is great. Be sure also that the cables, the old cables that arrived on inside the stand are well located. Be sure about that. Be sure also that the level of the stands is good. Okay. And since the level of each stand is good, you can fix the old screws. Well, you can fix well the washers first, the washers, then the lock washers, and finally the nuts. So do the same thing for the 4 fixation points, and do it for the 2 stands. Okay, and at the end you have fixed your stand. A remark concerning the third picture. You can notice that the stand is a little elevated and not close to the concrete. This is due to the fact that sometimes you can arrive on an installation with the cables which arrive from the right or left side, and sometimes the cables do not arrive at the center of the concrete. So sometimes we have to let a little level between the concrete and the plate of the stand in order to let the cables pass inside the stand. Another point is that sometimes you will probably have concrete that will be not flat. So in order to have a stand installed at a good level, you can put some nuts on the anchors, and try in order to try to correct the level of the stand in order to have a good level of the stand. Since the stands are installed, you will have to install then the detectors. So concerning these steps, the necessary equipment is, of course, the master detector, the slave detector, the all screws needed to fix the detectors on the stands, and the associated washers. A reminder also on the detector characteristics. The material is galvanized steel. The weight of the detectors, of course, without lead shielding, is 25 kilograms. And the dimensions are the ones presented here. Another time, customer can ask you these dimensions, and it's important to have it in mind, or to have the associated drawings for sure. The same as for the stands. Concerning the installation of the detectors, you have two ways to install it. The first one is with handles. So we provide you the detector with the detectors, the handles. So you have 4 handles for the detectors. So first, if you use the handles for the installation, the first step is to fix for sure these handles, thanks to the screws, the associated screws, which are delivered with the handles. It was not the case before, but now the SaphyGATE G, and more precisely the detectors, are delivered with these handles, which are already fixed on the detectors. So normally you do not have to fix the handles now. And if it's better for you, or if it is possible on site, you can also install the system with, well, the detectors, thanks to the hoisting kit. So here you have the steps to install this hoisting kit, and you have here two points of fixation in order to put the lanyard. So since you have fixed or the handles or the hoisting kit, you can now put the detectors inside the stands. So the first step is to place the detector on the stand. Be careful to manipulate the detectors with caution. Be careful about that, and you have to be at minimum 2 to do the step 1, to place the detector on the stands. Be sure that 2 persons do that, because it's too difficult to do it alone. And the only way to do it alone is to use the hoisting kit presented before. So since the detector is placed on the stand, you have now to place the all washers and screws, and to clamp it. Then, since the lead shielding, since the detectors are installed on their stands, you have now to install the 10 lead shieldings. Well, more precisely, 20 lead shieldings, lead bricks, but you have 10 lead bricks per detector. So the necessary equipment for this stage, is the master detector, slave detector, and 20 lead bricks. Here you have characteristics of these lead bricks and more precisely the weight, which is 15 kilograms per lead brick. And here you have also the dimensions. Concerning the lead bricks installation, it's very simple. You have to first identify the screws that are at the back of each detector and at the top of the detector. You have also screws at the top, 2 screws at each side of the top, on the top of the detector to remove. So you have to remove all of them, all of these screws, in order to install the lead bricks. Since the back plate of the detector is removed, you can place the lead shielding one by one and put all of the 10 lead bricks, of course, until the top. Since these all lead bricks are installed on the back of the detector, you can put again the steel plate and the associated screws. Okay, so now as we have seen the installation steps, the all installation steps, we will now do a little quiz concerning the all points we have seen before. And concerning this quiz, I will show you the questions first, of course, and you will have 4 possible answers. Concerning these answers, I will let you few seconds, about 30 seconds, to answer. So put your answers on the chat, on the questions area. You can put the answers, and since the majority of you have answered to the questions, you can well, I will give you the answer and the elements of response. Okay, so I will try something. I hope it will work. Let's go. Okay, I think it works. So let's go to the quiz. So, welcome to the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Special Edition for SaphyGATE G50. First question. How many detectors does the SaphyGATE G50 have? Answer 1. Answer A, 1. Answer B, 2. Answer C, 3. Or answer D, 4. So for sure, the answer is the answer B, 2 detectors. So next question. Which one of these elements is not inside the detectors? Answer A, the scintillator. Answer B, a DAM module. Answer C, the spectrobot. Or answer D, the photomultiplier. I'll let you a few seconds to answer. Well, most of you have sent the answer, and of course the answer is the ADAM module. The ADAM module is not inside the detector, as we have seen, and as you know, the ADAM module is inside the electrical box. Next question. What is the maximum width recommended between the two detectors, the master and the slave detectors? 3 meters, 3 meters and a half, 4 meters, or 4 meters and a half? Most of you are answering. And of course, as we have seen several times, the good answer is 4 meters and a half. Congrats to everybody, but easier ones. Another question, what is the maximum length recommended for the cables? 100 meters, 200 meters, 500 meters, or 1 kilometer? So most of you have sent the answer, but not everybody has the good answer. The good answer is the answer A, 100 meters. As we have seen, it is recommended to not have more than 100 meters, and more precisely concerning the Ethernet cable. Okay, keep it in mind. For the length, the maximum length recommended for the Ethernet cable between the master detector and the electrical box. Next question. What is the MDA of SaphyGATE G with it's not 4.5, but sorry, 4.3 width and a 10 kilometers per hour speed? 52 kilobecquerels, 146 kilobecquerels, 234 kilobecquerels, or 310 kilobecquerels? And for sure, it's for cesium, the radio element cesium, 137, as we have seen before. So everybody has answered, and most of you have given the right answer. Of course, this is 146 kilobecquerels. Good to everyone. Congratulations. Next question. How high the detection axis, the detection axis of a SaphyGATE G50 is? 2 meters, 2 meters 0.05, 2 meters 0.10, or 2 meters 0.15. Everybody is answering. I just wait more 10 seconds. and give you the answer. And most of you answer the right one, which is, of course, the answer A, 2 meters. As a reminder, be sure that you will install a system on the flat roads, and be sure that the two detectors are installed at the same level. Question 7. How many cables are there between the master detector and the electrical box? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Everybody is answering. And be careful, there is some confusion. Not everybody has the good answer. The correct answer is the B. There is 2 cables between the master detector and the electrical box. As a reminder, you have the first one, which is the Ethernet cable for communication, which is connecting the mixing box to the Ethernet switch of the electrical box. And the second one is for the power supply. Okay, you only have 1 cable between the 2 detectors, between the master and the slave detector. Okay, 3 more questions. The question 8, what is the weight of a detector? And of course, without lead shielding, 15 kilograms, 20 kilograms, 25 kilograms, or 30 kilograms. So quick answers from all of you, and for sure the answer was 25 kilograms. Congratulations to everybody. Most of you have answered the good answer. Question 9 now. What are the 2 ways to install the detectors on their stand? 2 handles or 2 lift loops, 4 handles or 2 lift loops, 2 handles or 4 lift loops, and the last answer, 4 handles or 4 lift loops. Okay, a lot of different answers. Now let's do more 10 seconds for the ones who have not answered yet. Okay, so the answer was, of course, 4 handles or 2 lift loops. Okay, you have to use the 4 handles to install the detector. Only 2 will be really difficult to place the detector inside the stand. And the second way to install is thanks to the hoisting kit, where you have at the top of this kit 2 lift loops. So it was the answer B. And the last question, very easy one. How many lead bricks are there behind each detector? 10, 11, 12, or 13? Okay, very quick answers from everybody. And of course, it was the response A, the answer A, 10 lead bricks per detector. Well, congratulations to everybody. Most of you have given the right answers to these all questions. In fact, it was very easy questions. And on the second part of the installation, which is concerning the wiring, you will have another quiz a little bit more difficult concerning the second part of the installation. So now I will propose you a 15 minutes break in order for you to go drinking a water glass or going to toilet or doing what you want. Please stay connected to this platform, and we will come back in 15 minutes for the next steps of the installation. Another time, sorry for the technical problems we had at the beginning and at the middle of this first part of presentation. And we hope that these technical problems are now stopped, and hope that we can continue as best as possible this training. Okay, thank you, and see you in 15 minutes. So time break is finished, so we will continue this training. So now we will see the the wiring part. Concerning the wiring, here you have the necessary equipment. So of course you will need to cable to wire inside the master detector, also inside the slave detector. For it you need detector's keys for sure, because what you have to cable is inside the detectors. You will need the RG45 nozzles and the all cables for sure. So as we said before, the two cables between the master detector and the electrical box, so the Ethernet cable and the SMBL cable, and the cable between the master and slave detector, which is the power supply and the communication cable between the two detectors. Have a look before on the master detector. As we said before, you can easily identify the master detector thanks to its two infrared cells on each side of the housing. You have to also identify sorry, I think okay. That's great. We can continue. You have to identify also on the master detector the locks. You have 4 locks on the door. So use the key in order to open the door. And you have a picture of the inside view. So it's only a reminder of what we have seen. You have the scintillator, and you have also the spectral board and the mixing card. Okay. Concerning the wiring of the master detector, first of all, you have to remove the steel plate, which is on the back side of the stand. For that, you have some screws to remove, and more precisely 8 screws, in order to pass the cables inside the stand. First thing to do and to check is the location to wire the earth cable. On the picture, you can see the location where you have to install the frame ground lug in order to cable the earth connection. So here you have the three steps for the earth connection. First one, location. Second one, fix the frame ground lug, and third one, the earth connection. Have a look on the gland cables of the detectors. Here, an indication. Before you prepare the cables, you have to pass, of course, each one of them on the glands. Okay. Because you can have some difficulties then to pass the cables if you preparing for example, the Ethernet connection, the Ethernet cable before passing it on the gland, it could be problematic then to pass the RG45 connector on the gland. So be sure that you pass first the cables on the glands. First cable to prepare the Ethernet cable. So you have here you have the steps, the first steps to prepare this this cable before, and the first step, of course, is to cut the external part of the cable. You can cut around 8 centimeters of this cable, and you will have then to use well, you have to smooth the cables that are you have to smooth the all cables in order to put it correctly then on the RG45 connector. Okay, so here you have the way to prepare this cable, and you have to put on this order the all cables of the Ethernet cable. Okay, you have the first one is the orange and white cable, then the orange and the other ones as presented here. So be sure that the order of these cables is this one before placing it on the RG45 connector. Then you have since you have put it on the RG45 connectors, you have to fix, of course, these cables on the RG45 connector, and use a tester cable in order to be sure that it has been prepared well, because sometimes you can do it not on a properly condition. It is not really it is not always easy to prepare this RG45 connector, so be sure that you have with you on site a tester in order to test the connections, and in order to be sure that this Ethernet cable has been well prepared. Concerning the SMBL cables, here you have also the steps to prepare it as well as possible, to prepare the head, let me say the head of the cable. So a first step, since you have passed the SMBL cable on the gland, be sure that the shielding part is in contact with the gland. Okay, this is really important. And another point that is really important is the length of the cables. An advice is be careful, let enough length for the cable strands in order to connect it easily on the terminal blocks. Okay, be sure that you have enough length on this cable. And then, since you have, let me say, passed the cable in a proper way on the gland, you only have to screw the gland, to tighten the gland in order to fix the cable, and you can pass now to the wiring, to the connection of these cables. So first one, this is the mixing card connections. So you can identify the mixing card, which is at the on the right side, on the right back side of the detector, as shown on the picture. Okay, since you have identified the mixing card, you have to remove the two screws from the protective cover, which is inside the card, and then remove the protective cover, okay, in order to access to the mixing card. Since you have removed this protection, you can now connect the old cables. So here you have a view in order to identify the old terminal blocks. So as a reminder, you have the terminal blocks for the connection of each detectors. So the terminal block G5 is for detector 1 wire. The G6 is for the detector 2. The G10 for detector 3, and the G15 for detector 4. Of course, we are talking about on this training about G50 training, G50 installation. So you only have for sure to cable, to wire, sorry, the terminal block G5 and G6 corresponding to detector 1 and detector 2. In case of an installation of G100 system, you have to wire, of course, the G10 and G15 terminal blocks. Concerning the terminal block G13, it concerns the infrared cells. And concerning this one, this is already connected. This is already wired when we delivered the system to you, because it is done on our factory. But as information, you can for sure check if the connections are well. Okay. Then the G9 terminal block is in fact a relay. This corresponds to the relay alarm. This is on the middle, on the center of this mixing card, the G9, and this is on the terminal block just on the left side of this relay alarm. That you can connect, that you can wire in case of option connection. This is here where you can connect the traffic light or the external alarm box, or also a barrier. So this is this one where you can wire in case of option. Then you have also the G11 terminal block. The G11 terminal block is just on the left side of the detector 3 terminal block, and the G11 is for camera option. You can connect the camera here, and we'll see later the connection of a camera. Then you have also the G12 and G14 terminal blocks in red. You can identify it in red, and this is for the power supply. So the cable comes from the electrical box can be connected to the G12 or the G14 in order to provide the supply the 24 volts supply to the detectors. Then, and the last one, this is the G17, which is the one for the Ethernet cable connection. So this is the cable who comes from the electrical box, and since you have prepared the cable, since you have put the RG45 nozzle, you can plug it on this terminal block. We can plug in on this RG45 block. Okay, now have a look on on the wiring, and more precisely the wiring on each terminal block. So as I said concerning the 24 volts connection, you have to connect it on the terminal block G12 or on the terminal block G14, and you have the terminals 1 and 2 for 24 volts, for the plus 24, and you have terminal 3 and 4 for the ground. As I said before concerning the Ethernet cable, you only have to plug it on the G17 G45 connection, and since you have prepared, of course, this cable. So very easy one, since you have prepared the cable, this is very easy, you have only to plug it. Then concerning the detector connection, you have to use, of course, the G6 terminal block, and here you have information concerning the terminals, concerning the supply, the 24 volts. This is the terminal 1. Concerning the information, so RS 485, this is the terminals 3 and 4, and concerning the ground connection, this is terminal 5. Just a precision. Normally, all of you have this drawings. So it's normally a reminder. If some of you do not have these wirings, please let me know. Put a question, put your remarks as a question, and we will send you the drawings after. Sorry. Concerning the infrared cells, as I said before, it is already connected on our factory. So when it is delivered, you only have to check that the connections are good. So here you have the wiring, the drawing. So for the supply, this is the terminal 1. And for the inputs, you will have the terminal 2, 3, 4, and 5. And concerning the ground connection, this is the terminal 6. Since you have connected the all cables, so since you have connected the Ethernet cable plugged, more precisely plugged the Ethernet cable and connected the detector, the detector, in fact, and the power supply. And since you have checked the infrared cells connection, please take care about the position of the switches. This is really important to check that, and the only one of these 8 switches that is on the right side is the first one, the one which is at the top. Of course, if the switches are not placed as presented on the picture, you will have some problems of communication, and in fact the panel PC will not receive the all informations sent by both detectors. So this is a really important thing to keep in mind. This is the position of these red switches. Now concerning the slave detector, easily identified, of course, since you have cabled the master detector. But just for as a reminder, this is a detector without infrared cells, and inside the detector, you only have the scintillator and photomultiplier and the spectral board. No mixing card. The mixing card is only on the master detector. The same as for master detector, you have first on the slave detector to remove the screws on the stand, on the back side of the stand. So another time you have to remove 8 screws in order to remove this plate. And concerning the slave detector, very simple, because you only have one cable to wire. This is the cable which comes from the master detector. So it has to be connected on the spectral card as presented below. The only terminal block you have to connect, yes, is the one on green. Okay, this is the G7 terminal block, and you have to connect it as presented on the picture. So the terminal 6 is for 24 volts, terminal 5 is for the ground, and terminal 1 and 2 is for communication. So the steps are the same as for a master detector concerning the mixing cards. Here for the spectral board, you have first to remove the protective cover, and then to wire the spectral board as explained before. Now we will see the electrical box and electrical box installation and wiring. So since you have connected everything outside, you can go inside in order to fix the electrical box and the panel PC and to wire it. So first, the electrical box. The necessary equipment is the electrical box for sure, the electrical box key in order to open the door and access to the switch, Adam module, and to the terminal blocks. And you will need also the RG45 nozzles in order to prepare the Ethernet cable, the one who is already plugged on the mixing card. Okay, and for sure the cables, so the Ethernet cable and the SMBL cable. First step is to take measurements. You have to take the measurement of each point of fixation of this electrical box and do the necessary marks on the wall. Since you have done the marks, you can drill the 4 necessary holes and then to put the necessary dowels according to the nature of the wall. In fact, this is something we cannot unfortunately provide to you, the dowels and the screws to fix this electrical box, because it depends of the nature of the wall of the customer. So you have to provide it and be sure that and check before going to site that you have everything in order to fix the electrical box. Ask as much as possible questions to the customer in order to know the nature of the wall and the place where you can install the electrical box and the panel PC. Because keep in mind that the panel PC will be installed really close to the panel PC. This is one general block who is working together. The electrical box, of course, is working with the old devices, but in fact, more precisely with the panel PC. So just after you have put the necessary dowels, you have to fix the electrical box thanks to the screws. So put the electrical box, you have to place it in front of each holes and put the adapted screws. The same as for the preparation of the Ethernet cable on master detector's side, this is exactly the same on the electrical box. Okay, just do the same as before. So you have to cut the external part of a cable, as a reminder, about 8 centimeters, and prepare this cable as previously. Okay, so be sure that you have passed the cable on the gland cables of the electrical box, and then prepare it as before. Another time, test the connection of this cable, because this is really important. Sometimes we thought that there is a problem with the system because we do not receive the information from the detectors, but in fact sometimes the problem comes from the non-properly preparation of this Ethernet cable. So this is a key part, this preparation. You have to be sure that connection is done as well as possible. So another time, take your tester cable, a tester Ethernet cable, in order to be sure that this is working properly. Okay, I will pass it very quick because this is the same as before. You have to prepare for sure the cable, the SMBL cable, as presented before and as presented here on the slides. Okay. Another time, and as a reminder, be sure that the shielding of the cable is in contact with the gland, and let enough length for the cable strands to connect it on the terminal blocks of the electrical box. Have a look on now on the identification of each cable. So you will have 5 cables to wire on the electrical box. The first one, so if we start from the left and go to the right, we have first the cable number 5 that I had identified as cable 5, which is the power supply for the panel PC. Okay. Next, you have the cable number 1, which is the power supply which comes from the electrical outlet of the site, and to bring the 230 volts to the electrical box. The cable 4 is the cable for the 24 volts power supply of a mixing box, the mixing card. Then you have the cables 3 and 2, which are Ethernet cables. The cable 3 is the Ethernet cable which is connected to the mixing card, and the cable 2 is the Ethernet cable who is directly connected to the panel PC, which is installed really close to the electrical box. Concerning the wiring of cable 1, just as a reminder for you, the cable 1 is the 230 volts power supply, is wired as presented here. You have the phase connected on terminal 1, the neutral connected on terminal 4, and the earth connection, which is coupled directly on the terminal block identified as green and yellow. Concerning the cable 2, which is the Ethernet cable coming from the panel PC, you have to connect it on, for example, the second RG45 plug. But in fact, you can connect it in the third one or the fourth one. No matter about that, just a precision or a reminder for all of you is that the first RG45 plug is already connected. This is an internal connection done by Bertin before we deliver it to you, which is the connection between the Adam module with the Ethernet switch. And then you have the choice to put the cable 2 and the 2 Ethernet cables on the RG45 plug 2, 3, or 4 at your choice. Concerning the fifth and the last one, this is only used for Ethernet switch parameter. So you don't care about it, and you do not have to plug anything on this last RG45 plug. So cable 3, which is the Ethernet cable coming from the mixing cards, you can connect it to the third RG45 plug, and as I said before, you can also plug it on the fourth one. So very easy, this part. And the cable 4, with which is the cable, the SMBL cable connected to the mixing cards, you have to wire it on the central terminal block, and more precisely on the terminals 6, 7, 8, and 9 as presented on the pictures. And concerning the cable number 5, which is the cable for power supply, the supply of the panel PC, this is very simple also, and you have to connect the phase on terminal 3, the neutral on terminal 4, and the same as the 230 volts cable. The earth connection is of course on the center of the terminal blocks, identified by a green-yellow cable. No, green-yellow color, sorry. Since you have fixed and wired the electrical box, you can now do the same for the panel PC. So concerning the panel PC installation, the necessary equipment is only the panel PC and the wall support that is provided with the panel PC. Another time concerning the screws and the dowels, it's at your furniture. It's you have to provide it, or customer has to provide it, because another time it depends on the wall. Okay. So the same as for the electrical box, the panel PC installation, first step is to take the measures. You have to take the measures of the fixation points of the supports and indicate the marks on the wall in order to drill it. Okay. And yes, one indication, as I said before, the panel PC has to be installed just next to the electrical box. Since you have done the marks, you can drill the 4 necessary holes in order to put the dowels, the adapted dowels, and then the same as for the electrical box, you only have to fix the panel PC thanks to the adapted screws. Since you have fixed the panel PC, you can wire it. So very simple to wire, since it's only to plug the cables. You have to plug, of course, the power cable and 2 Ethernet cables. Well, not really true. Normally you have 1 Ethernet cable, which is the one who is connected directly to the Ethernet switch of the electrical box. And here I have presented a picture with a 2nd Ethernet cable for the internet connection, because this is a really important point. This is a key point to keep in mind. Is to connect the system to the internet, since you have a possibility. I know that this is not always possible for you to, because the customer doesn't want to put the system on his own network. But in fact, if you want us to help you as well as possible, this is really appreciated and really needed to have an internet connection in order to do TeamViewer remote session. Okay, and not only us, but also you. If you install a free version of TeamViewer on your own computers, you can also use it in order to do a remote session and sometimes help the customer, and depend the case when this is when this is really easy diagnostics and really easy problems. So very important thing is to connect the system to the network, to the internet when it's possible. And this was the end of the installation. At this stage, the installation is finished, so you can start now to do the site's commissioning. Well, regarding the hour, we have 25 minutes yet. I don't know if it's a good idea to start now the on-site commissioning. Maybe not. I think it's better to let place to some questions if you have, and try to bring the answers. So now you can use the question and the question part, the chat, to ask your questions, and we will try to answer to some of these questions. Please ask, let me say, general questions, and not personal questions, in order to share the answer with everybody. So please ask your questions, and I will wait 1 or 2 minutes in order to take your questions, in order to read the all questions and try to do an answer to your questions. Okay, so let's have 5 minutes. We can say 5 minutes in order to let you prepare your questions. Thank you. Okay, so we will continue. I have seen that most of you have asked some questions. And a question most of you asked is concerning this PowerPoint presentation. Of course, it will be possible to have a copy of this presentation. So we will send at the end of this training by tomorrow. We will send to you this presentation slides, of course. So what else? Another question is, when will Windows 10 be available? Good question. In fact, we have done all tests in order to see that if the panel PC works properly with Windows 10, and it has been successful. So everything is great concerning the tests, but we have noticed that Windows 10 takes too much place on the panel PC. And in order to avoid some problems with the disk, because we have noticed when in case of huge files on the database, and if there is a lot of files on the database, and if these files are not purged, we have noticed in some cases that the disk, the hard disk, could be corrupted. So as Windows 10 is taking too much place, a lot of place, more than the Windows 7 embedded version, we are thinking into increasing the disk space and put another one. So we have to prepare it, and I do not have, unfortunately, a date, a precise date to give to you, but in like we say, in the coming weeks, for sure you will have the information that Windows 10 is well, with that the panel PCs are available with Windows 10. We will communicate with you about that for sure. Another question you asked. Just sorry in advance that I cannot answer yet to all questions, but be sure that we will answer to your questions. The ones who cannot be answered now, we will make you an answer before and send you the answer to each of you by email. Okay. Another question was, what is the function of the third Ethernet plug on the panel PC? In fact, yes, you are right. There is another Ethernet plug on the panel PC, and it is used in case of centralized supervision. If you use another PC on the site in order to see, let me say, for example, if you have a site with 3 systems, you can use on each one of the panel PCs this third Ethernet plug in order to connect to the network and send the information to the centralized supervision. So this third RJ45 plug is essentially for centralized supervision. Another question. Can we change the IP address of the mixing board? The answer is yes, you can. You can change the IP address, but be careful. Be careful because, well, first one, to change the IP address of a mixing board, you have to do it directly on the parameters files on Cofre TRT folder. Okay, you have to open it with Notepad and do directly the modification of that. And if you change the IP address of a mixing board, you have to change also the IP address for the panel PC, because if you do not have the same IP address, it will not communicate. Okay, so be careful about that. Be sure that if you change the IP address of the mixing board, you also change the one of the panel PC on the parameters file, XML file of Cofre TRT. Okay. Okay, let's pass to another question. Another question was how to change alarm thresholds. Well, we have not seen how to change the alarm threshold yet on the presentation. It will be done tomorrow, because tomorrow, as a reminder, we will have a look on the algorithm and also on maintenance and diagnostics for SaphyGATE G50. And in fact, it was supposed today to start the commissioning part, but due to the technical problems, sorry, we have no time today to see the commissioning, but for sure we'll see it tomorrow, how to change the alarm threshold. But just a few words concerning that. Concerning the parameters, how to parameter the system, you only have to use the configurator tool. Everything you have to do is you have to parameter is on the configurator tool. We will see it tomorrow, and in fact you have to put 5 sigma for the alarm threshold. This is a standard, and this is recommended and asked for each installation. But then we know that it is depending from each site. In fact, due to the environment, due to where the system is installed, due to some other parameters, you are sometimes you have sometimes to parameter the system, the alarm threshold, to a set higher than 5 sigma. You can put 6 or 7 sigma depending on each site, but for sure you cannot put a parameter higher than 5 sigma at the beginning of the installation. First, you have to install the system with 5 sigma threshold, and let the system run like that during a few days. And if you have, if you see that, or if a customer sees that there is a lot of problems or false alarms, or I don't know, or other problems, in fact, you have to take the XML files and in order to analyze it. Okay, so in order to, as a reminder, in order to take these XML files, you have to check if the transfer of XML files is really activated. This is really important. We will see it tomorrow, but on the configurator tool, you can activate or deactivate the exchange of XML files between Coffret application and RPM Vision application. And if it's not activated, we cannot take these XML files, and this is really necessary to these XML files are really necessary to analyze the cases, to analyze, for example, alarm passages or false alarm passages. Then, thanks to these XML files, we have a MatCAD tool we use in order to do the analyze, and in order to check what is the proper alarm threshold set. Okay, then we can determine if we have to put the alarm threshold at 6 sigma, 7 sigma, and so on, and that's it. We will you will have more precisions tomorrow with my colleague Alain Ferragut. Okay. Another, let me see, another question, and maybe a last one before the end of this first part. So, question is, it is necessary to connect 24 volts from the electrical box to G12 and G14 of the mixing board, or is it sufficient to connect only to G12? The answer is it is only sufficient to connect it to G12, and you do not have to, for sure, to connect the cable on G12 and G14. This is enough to connect it to one terminal block, and at your choice, G12 or G14. So concerning the other questions, sorry in advance for not answering now to these questions. We will take these all questions and try to answer for ones tomorrow, and for the other ones by email. So thank you very much for your attention and for participating to this first part of installation SaphyGATE G training. And as a reminder, tomorrow I'm waiting for you, and hopefully we will not have technical problems in order to advance as quick as possible to see first the on-site commissioning with a little quiz. Then you will have an explanation of the algorithm, and you will also have an explanation for some parameters you can see on the panel PC. For example, the meaning of background, the meaning of background reference, the meaning of measure, and over the other parameters in order to give you the all precisions you need. And we will have a quick look on current problems we could have and how to diagnostic that, and also to the maintenance. And then we'll have another time apart with questions and answers. Well, I think that that's it. Maybe Eric, you want to say something before start this first part?
No, thank you, Frédéric, for your intervention. And thanks to everybody to welcoming on this first training. I hope it has been helpful for everybody of yours in order to better understand how to install and to improve your installation. For sure, it is less. It has been better to do it on site on our factory, but because due to the COVID situation, it is still complicated in France to travel. So I hope it will be great for you. Even if it has not been possible with physical presence. Okay.
Okay, so thank you to everybody, and hope I will see a lot of you tomorrow morning at same hour. Okay, for the other parts. Thank you to everybody, and see you tomorrow.
And we will try to change our PC in order to not to have the same problem than we have today with the system. Yesterday it worked perfectly, and today it was difficult sometimes. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All.
Sorry for that. Another time. Okay, bye bye. See you tomorrow.